Welcome to the Farrms News Podcast Network. It's your contrarian agrarian, Sue Belcom, today. Oh, but Annie's not here with me today. Instead, we have a special guest, Medina native Jonathon Moser, and
Hello.
we're going to talk to him about, you are a Medina native, aren't you?
Yeah, I have to claim Medina, I guess.
Well, you graduated from high school here?
I did.
All right, so we're going to have a little conversation because Jonathon got back from, you were a farm manager in a CSA in Australia, right?
Correct.
So first of all, we have to start out with, what is a CSA?
CSA is a community-supported agriculture, and I guess it stands for lots of different things, but what we were doing is we were packing up boxes of vegetables and delivering them direct to consumer.
And how many boxes did you do a week?
We averaged about 100 boxes a week.
And how many weeks did a CSA in Australia run?
Well, where we were, it was fairly mild in climate, so it went about 20, well, we were there for 21 weeks, and we delivered a couple weeks past the weeks that we were there, so.
Okay, so here's the real critical question is, how on earth does somebody who grew up in Medina and went to school in Fargo-Moorhead end up in Australia working on a CSA?
Well, I have some friends that work in the international organic industry, and they have friends all over the world and wanted to do some travel. And they decided I decided that I wanted to skip North Dakota winter, and that meant I had to go someplace in the southern hemisphere, and so it was either South Africa or Australia, because I also wanted to go someplace that had English as the primary language.
What? You don't speak a second language?
I unfortunately I don't.
No,
but
unfortunately I don't either.
Yeah, so for my first international trip, I wanted to have English be the primary language. So I got hooked up with Rod May on Captain's Creek Organic Farm and went there for 5 months and just hung out, basically volunteered my time in order to travel. And then this time he invited us back as both my fiance and I back as farm profit sharers. So.
Okay, so then actually you worked not really for a salary, but for just a share of what the CSA brought in?
Yeah, it was a split profit. So we had negotiated terms prior to arriving saying, well, he invested so much in equipment and, we'll have this much in expenses and we're projecting this much in income or revenue anyways. And then at the end of the day, he took his share and we took our share, and that's how it went.
So is it expensive to live in Australia?
More expensive than here.
And how does our U.S. dollar compare to, what do they use for currency down there?
They use the Australian dollar. Is what it's
okay.
called, and it varied. So when we went, their value was more than ours, and then when we came back, their value was less than ours. So it was the exact opposite of what we wanted.
Ooh, so when you came back here, you kind of lost a little in the transition?
We had to spend more money to get there, and we brought less money home because of the exchange rate.
But it was a good experience.
Yeah, it was definitely a learning experience. Lots of communication failures that led to some really interesting situations, but it ended up turning out okay.
So how many acres did you guys farm down there?
Well, we had about 7 acres of vegetables, 2 acres roughly in sweet corn, and then another 5 varied, probably 20 different types of stuff in the other 5 acres.
So do they eat the same kind of vegetables that we eat up here?
All exactly the same. They just have different names, some of them.
Oh, really? They call them different things?
Yeah,
Give me an example. Come on.
So they have, instead of having a pepper, like we call a sweet bell pepper, they call them capsicums.
Oh, well, that would be their scientific name,
yes,
right?
Right. And the same thing with...
Everybody knows that.
the same thing with eggplant, they call them aubergines. So,
oh, I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, that's the scientific name.
Well, I could tell it by looking at it what it was.
Exactly.
So. Oh, no. Well, God, that sounds like a lot of fun. And I saw some of your pictures on Facebook while you were down there. And, boy, it looks like beautiful country.
Yeah, it's gorgeous there.
Like you were on the ocean.
We were
some water.
Yeah,
okay.
We were on the farm. We were 60 miles from the ocean, and we delivered into Melbourne, which is a city of about 4 million these days, and they're right on the ocean. So
Which ocean? It's not the Pacific.
Yeah, it's the South Pacific, actually.
Oh, okay.
And so we also did some travel. We went to northern Australia for a few days and went up to the tropical area and went to the Great Barrier Reef and went swimming.
Did you go scuba diving?
We went snorkeling on the Great Barrier Reef.
What is that like? Did you see like a bunch of coral?
Yeah,
stuff?
well, the day we went, it wasn't as sunny as it should have been. And so some of the pictures that we took didn't really show how colorful it actually was, just because of the lighting in the ocean. But we figured out that my waterproof camera did actually take pictures underwater. It actually did take pictures, and so we got some shots. But just being there was pretty awesome. And then we also went on a trip to Tasmania, which is like the southernmost land mass before Antarctica. And so it's like launching point for all the research in Antarctica.
Gosh, are you kidding me?
No, and
was the Tasmanian devil there?
Yeah, they did. They did have a Tasmanian devil. We didn't do any tours or see. I didn't actually get to see one, but we did have lunch with a wallaby one day. So.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah. Did he invite you, or did you just
yourself? No, he joined our lunch. Actually, we were eating out of the trunk of our car before a hike, and he just showed up and said, "Hey, can I have some food?" Yeah, you're not supposed to feed them, but I figured a piece of organic spinach probably wouldn't hurt the wallaby. You know, if you're giving them like candy bars and stuff.
Unless he followed you home.
Yeah, if you're giving them candy bars, then I suppose it's an issue. But
oh no, God, that sounds like really cool deal to be down there. So if you were to like match them up with North American continent along like are they down around where Mexico is, or further south than that?
In terms of climate?
Well, right. So
like growing, it's more like California, where we were.
Okay.
We were in Victoria, which is in the southern tip of the main island, the mainland of Australia, and that portion tends to be more. I think it's like Southern California. Really.
How about rainfall? I mean, is it more
30. Wet? Well, from here, I didn't actually know what our average rainfall here was.
Less than 15 inches a year.
Yeah, and so they're at like 32 inches a year, but it's really extreme. So they have rainfall mostly in the spring and fall, and I guess in the winter as well. But in the summer, they don't get any rain at all.
Wow, that sounds like a super cool experience. Are you going back?
We'll go back and visit in 5 to 10 years sometime in there. But we won't be doing any work, and we're going to do a lot more travel.
Okay, you're going to travel, but what are you going to do in the meantime here in Medina? Do you have plans to farm, or
we're
something in mind?
We're in development for a CSA in the Jamestown area, delivering to possibly Fargo and Bismarck as well. We have a couple of wholesale contacts that we're talking to right now as well. And I guess we're just trying to get by in the short term until we get the vegetables growing and start bringing in some money from the veggies. So
if people wanted to talk to you about becoming one of your CSA customers, do you have like a phone number they can call you?
Yeah, so you can call my cell phone right now. It's 701-368-1552, or you can email me at j_d_moser@hotmail.com. And we don't have any marketing pieces yet, but hopefully by the end of October we'll have some stuff out for people to see what we're actually deciding on.
Cool, that's pretty awesome. Now you'd probably be a good candidate for the Farm Beginnings class that Annie and I talked about in a prior podcast, right?
Yeah. Well, I've actually taken it personally myself, but I've been in discussions with Annie about the potential for our entire farm, the rest of the business partners to also take it. That way, not all the information is just coming from me.
Well, and also, don't you need to have like some sort of plan when you're starting out on a venture like this? I mean, do you have like a business plan, a farm food safety plan? How do you go about starting a CSA from scratch? Basically, that's what you're doing, right?
Right. Well, yes, you do. We're right now we're drawing from our previous experience, one of our business partners, Ken, he grew vegetables for 16 years in Australia, or in Ireland. And so he's got a lot of experience selling wholesale. And Hannah and I have the CSA experience in Australia me for 2 years and Hannah for 1. Also, our professional backgrounds don't hurt in terms of coming up with a business plan. I'm a trained accountant. Hannah is a trained marketer, and Ken and Annie both work in the business world, but Ken is a economist. So he's really good at doing the research on market interests and making sure we get the right equipment for the right price and that sort of thing.
Farrms has a mentor program, so could you speak just very briefly about how you feel about the fact, or how valuable it was for you to actually go down to Australia and actually work for someone who's kind of been established in a CSA operation? Was that really what kind of convinced you to move on to your own?
Well, I think it's a combination of things, but yeah, that was the biggest thing, that I got to do it day by day, and I really got to find out if I liked doing it or not. At the end of the day, you have to like what you're doing, especially when you're starting a business or working in a labor-intensive job that growing vegetables is. You have to really know that you want to do it every day and that you can get up and motivate yourself to do it. And that's something that you can't learn from a book or something.
Right. Everybody thinks having a business is like open up the door and everything takes care of itself, when in reality you're actually working harder than if you worked for somebody else.
Right.
Plus then you've got the financial risk involved with that.
Mm-hmm.
So anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners today, Jonathon, about your future CSA, or advice for someone who maybe is interested in starting their own CSA or even just a small diversified farm?
Well, I would say that before I went to Australia the second time, I started actually working for Farrms as their administrative assistant, and through the programs that I got as a benefit of working for Farrms, I solidified a lot of the ideas that I want to put into practice in my own farm. So it's not even so much that that I was able to come up with new ideas, but in ways that are practical. And so I think just being able to have the resource of Farrms, and just the books that are available through the lending library and things like that, you're able to see what actually is possible.
Well, hey, that's a perfect segue into my next little spiel, which is always the same. If you want more information about Farrms, or you want to begin a CSA in your area, we can certainly help. So call 701-486-3569 or email info@farrms.org. You can find our podcasts, both the future and the present, at farrmsnews.com, and that's Farrms with 2 R's. It's easy to join us every week for Farrms News. But it's not just about us. If you have an issue, a comment, or would like to be a guest on our next episode, you can call 701-527-5169 or 486-3569. So thank you, Jonathon, for being our guest today.
Thanks, Sue.
I hope that you come back and we can talk again real soon about how your venture goes.
I would like that.
All right, we'll see you next week on the Farrms News Podcast Network. Bye now.